Ready, set, secure.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the third video in planning for a successful SIM. Today we're going to talk a little bit about data collection and data pipelines and how those relate to your SIM. But first, let's recap what we covered in the first videos. So in the first video, we talked a lot about how do I know what data sources I should be bringing into my SIM? And we really talked about the foundational data sources you should be bringing in. In the second video, we talked about the logging standards and going into the detail of defining what do I need out of those different foundational data sources to feed my use cases for my SIM. So for example, what event IDs do I need for my Windows event logs? So now today, we're going to talk about actually getting data into your SIM and some of the best practices related to that. So when we're talking data collection, we want to focus first and foremost on time. We talked about it in our second video and really want to make sure that time is correct to enable our analysts to use during their investigations. They're going to be highly reliant on this to build out accurate timelines of the events and to make sure they have the full picture of what happened during an investigation. Next, we want to collect data from as close to the source as possible. So what we mean here is going and collecting data from the source, not routing it through and manipulating data through multiple systems and getting it from there. For our SIM, we really want to make sure we have the original event and the original source of data to make sure we aren't missing anything. We also want to make sure we support real-time log collection where possible. As we talked about in the first video, one of the core capabilities of a modern SIM is supporting that real-time log collection. So if we're not supporting that with the data sources we're sending in, we're really hurting our own MTTR and increasing the amount of time it takes us to respond to a potential incident. And then the last thing is we recommend putting a data pipeline in when you're having to route data to your SIM and to other data sources. So let's dig into that a little bit more. So when we talk about data pipelines, think of data pipelines as a train station. You're going to have hundreds or thousands of people coming in every day and boarding trains and being sent off to different train stops or different cities. The same thing happens with our data pipeline. So we will have events come into our data pipeline, and then we want to route them off to their different sources, whether that be our SIM, S3 bucket up in Amazon, data lake product, another product used by IT. Having this flexibility to route data where it needs to go and making sure we have the right data where it needs to be really enhances our capabilities as an organization, make sure we have full coverage and monitoring in place. So as we talk a little bit more about best practices of data pipelines, keep in mind this concept of a train station. So the first best practice we recommend is keeping it simple. Just like a train, you want to go from point A to point B. You don't want a bunch of twists and turns and bumps along the road. You want to make it smooth going from point A to point B. The same thing is true with your data pipelines. Don't overcomplicate it. Use your data pipelines for routing. If you're having to manipulate data, we recommend doing that at the final destination. Don't add additional latency into your pipeline if you can avoid it. Another key thing to do up front is define what your health and performance monitoring for your data pipeline are going to be. So how are we going to keep track of the events going through the system? How are we going to keep track of our latency in the system? So one of the ways we recommend doing that is using something like a tracer event, where you inject an event into the data pipeline, measure how long it takes to go through the pipeline, and use that to keep metrics on your latency. Another thing we really want to emphasize is planning for scalability up front. As you kick off these data pipeline projects and get your pipeline established, the demand quickly increases within organizations to pump even more data into these pipelines. So knowing how you're going to scale up the solution to support all of the use cases for your organization is going to be key. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching today. I hope this was informational and helpful. If you have any questions, please definitely reach out.